of the challenge is just, and we don't feel the same way about the same things, which for people who do what I do is, well, of course we don't. But for the general population, it's like, well, wait a minute, that just adds just a whole nother layer of confusion onto all of this.
Yeah. And that goes back to the ideals, again, is that we have these ideals of what a woman's going to feel certain ways about, and then what a man's going to feel certain ways about. And then there's a whole mixture based on your experience and how you've been raised.
Absolutely.
That you may not respond the way that people expect you to respond based on your gender. Like, I am a football fanatic, and if you see me watching football, I turn into a completely different person. I think I'm the coach. I'm yelling at the screen.
Oh, wait a minute. We must be related in some way.
For any other instance, I am like very quiet, very low key. You don't really see me get upset. But I'm like a whole other person when I'm watching football. But I feel comfortable doing that because of the sport. I wouldn't take the same, response and go to the theater and start yelling at the actors. Like, that might not be a good idea.
Well, that would be an interesting experience. I just want to let you know that This Is Happily Ever After is just the beginning on webtalkradio.net. I'm Leslie Dories, and I'm talking with writer Dyanne Brown about emotions and how they are, and more importantly, are not encouraged to be expressed. So if you have difficulty with your own emotions, or if your partner has difficulty with theirs, this can create challenges in your marriage. And knowing how to identify them and express them in a healthy way is key to your personal happiness and the success of your relationship. And if you want to get better at this, I can help. So if you're interested, you can right this minute, take a moment and send me an email or give me a call and take advantage of a free discovery session. So you can reach me by email at Leslie, Lesli, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS, coaching, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com, or you can reach me by phone at area code 919-924-0463. That's 919-924-0463. Now let's get back to this conversation about emotions and what to do with them. And Dyanne, you said that it's commonly believed that women have more freedom to express their emotions. But you also say that women are also taught to suppress them. So how does this work in here? I think that women have more freedom, like I said, to express more emotions. Women are more likely to be seen showing joy and happiness, and if they're really sad, maybe expressing that not in a professional setting, right,
but in with their girlfriends or around maybe family members. But there's less appreciation for a woman's anger. So when women are angry, people tend to try to stifle that. There's an uncomfortability with a woman's anger. There's an uncomfortability with an assertive woman. If she's assertive and she's very much, straightforward about how she feels or what she thinks, people get uncomfortable. There's this conditioning to be nice and to care about everybody else's feelings in the room, which causes them to then suppress. Because when you're now having a feeling that doesn't match what everyone else in the room is feeling, then you're less likely to express it. You're more likely to suppress it and keep it to yourself. And then also in the interpersonal relationship with a man, women don't want to feel like nags. They don't want to feel like they're frustrating him. They don't want to feel like, they're complaining about the same thing all the time. So a lot of times they'll then suppress their emotions to keep the status quo or, the homeostasis between the relationship.
Right.
So there's a set of rules that we follow as well as women.
Well, and it's interesting because there's a lot going on right now in society, social media, all this other stuff about how exhausted women are. Because women take on this role of managing, of attempting to manage, because you can't actually do it. But like you said, to manage everybody else's emotions, and they've been suppressing theirs for a long time. I had a friend who used to call them the FU 40s, because women would do everything for their partners, do everything for their kids, and then they'd hit their 40s, maybe early 50s, and they'd be so exhausted that they would just go, well, to heck with this. It's now all about me, and and then they just blow everything up around them, and everybody else is like, what just happened, right? Because they've been sitting on this for so long. Now they just take a nuclear bomb to their lives, and it's like, no, don't do this.
Yeah, which that's suppression again. But there's I read an article about emotional labor and how much emotional labor women tend to do in marriages and in relationships. And it's not something that you can see. It's just something that women tend to take up and then don't really talk about. And it breeds resentment.
Right.
And so, emotional labor is, you come home, your husband comes home, he, changes clothes, gets comfortable, watches TV. She's running the entire household. She's managing, she's fixing dinners, she's figuring out what the diet is for everyone, what everybody likes, what they don't like. She's, figuring out her schedule for the rest of the night and getting all the kids together and getting them, their homework done and getting them in bed. She's taking care of each member of the family in a different way that they need, and responding to all of the needs of the house itself. If we need doctor's appointments, or if somebody's birthday is coming up, or she's running through all these tasks in her mind, and that's emotional labor.
Right.
It's like your brain is constantly like a computer running constantly.
Well, and this is and the frustration is that because women do this, and they do it relatively silently. In fact, I'm not even sure a lot of women are even comprehending how much they actually do in all of this. But you're right, it does build up. And if it's not being shared with the guys, and the woman's just doing all this stuff, it's not gonna register with him, because it's being taken care of, and it's just not something he has to think about. And for a lot of guys, they won't necessarily do things that they don't want to do, so it doesn't occur to them that their wife doing all these things are things that she doesn't really want to do. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like this whole dynamic that's really, really crazy.
Yeah, and he can't get in her mind and take something from her. Like, how does he know where to step in and what to step? He has to become as familiar with the entire household as she is in order for him to step in and take something off of her plate.
Right.
And then the other feeling is, well, why do I have to tell you? Because if I have to tell you, and then I have to tell you how to do it, then I might as well do it myself.
Well, which I sort of disagree. I mean, I do agree that we have to have this communication. I don't necessarily agree that I have to tell you how to do it, but
yeah.
But on some cases, because in some cases it's more, I want it done my way, then therefore I do have to tell you how to do it, and that's a whole conversation for another show. But I do want to ask.
Yes.
But I do want to ask, because I want to get this in about how can a person and or a couple move into healthier ways of dealing with emotions. I mean, we've talked about these. There are societal expectations, and there are personal expectations. How do we navigate this on something that is so challenging as emotions?
I think the first step is awareness. So now that we've talked about this and there's an understanding that there are emotions that you might not know that you're feeling or that you're projecting or that you're dealing with, the first step would be having that awareness. And then when you're triggered, understanding that the emotion that you feel is not the responsibility of your partner. They did not create that emotion. And you have to get curious about what it is that's actually coming up for you. So even in the midst of a day where you're feeling, you know, like crabby and you know, everything he does is getting on your nerves or everything she does is getting on your nerves, you have to say to yourself, what is this? Why do I feel this way? They're not doing anything to me. Why is everything, why is their breathing getting on my nerves?
I love that because it's okay, you're just breathing wrong. It's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly. And then investigate it and try to figure out what is the emotion. It's basically the emotion is trying to get your attention. It's raising its hand. It's like, hey, I'm here, I need your attention. And then I even had to do this myself. I got a feeling wheel. I don't know if you've ever seen a feeling wheel. If you Google it on Google Image, you can find one, and it tells you the different levels of feeling. So if you're feeling angry, there's some feelings or emotions that might be under that. And then you can give that feeling a name. And like, oh, okay, I'm disappointed. All right. Okay. All right. Well, then let me deal with that.
Right.
And then as you learn how to start identifying your emotions, you can just sit with them and let them be instead of trying to press them down or suppress them or stop them from happening. And also you can empower your partner, because if you tell them what you're actually feeling, more times you'll get more sympathy. Oh, I didn't know that's what was going on. Oh, you're frustrated. Okay. Well, how can we avoid this frustration the next time?
Right.
Versus just snapping out on them and now they don't know what happened or what they did.
Well,
because a lot of times people will do something thinking that's going to make it better, and it doesn't, because they don't know what's really going on with you.
Well, and you said a couple of things that are really interesting, and I do want to make sure that I make this statement, because this is a very common thing, and if we're going to share what we're feeling with our partners, especially the hard stuff, it's really important to not say, you made me feel this way. Because you're going to get a defensive reaction from that. It's like, I'm feeling this, and here's why. I'm disappointed because I was really looking forward to, going away this weekend with you, and now this work thing, your boss has put this work thing that's keeping that from happening, right? To me, that's a much better way of saying, well, you didn't stand up to your boss, and I'm not as important. All the ways it can go haywire. But the other thing that I really wanted to address is you're talking about, and you say this and you make it sound like this is the easiest thing in the world, is just to sit with that emotion and not try to do anything with it. And I don't know if you heard all the screams, but I did.
Oh.
It's like, wait a minute, Sure, Dyanne, let me just do that.
None of this is easy. None of it. Not talking about your emotions, not identifying your emotions, not sitting with your emotions. None of it is easy. It's all very hard, and that's why we don't do it. That's why we suppress, because suppressing feels easier, but you pay for it later. It's a credit card.
Right.
The bill's going to come eventually, and you're going to have to pay for it. But, sitting with your emotions, I picture my emotion being like a small kid having a temper tantrum, and me not going with it, but sitting with it and letting it happen and watching the fallout and waiting for it to just calm down. and tell me what's really going on.